Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Gam Ganapate Namaha. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya. Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurumedeva Sarvakarishu Sarvada. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara. Guru Reva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sarva Mangala Mangalle Shive Sarvartha Sadhike. Sharanya Trambike Devi Narayani Namostute Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Mahalakshmi Rupena Samstita. Namaste Se Namaste Se Namaste Se Namo Namaha. Om Aim Hrim Klim Chamundaye Viche. Om Durge Durge Rakshini Tha Swaha. Shri Hanuman Ji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishnaya Namo Namaha. Welcome to Nitya Satsang. Today is the 9th of September 2025. I want to offer my prostrations, Dandavat Pranam, Anantakoti Namaskara to all the great sages present on the planet today, who have come in the past, yet to come, and to the one undivided consciousness, Supreme Paramatma, residing everywhere at all times in the heart of every single being. With that prarthana, we are continuing to examine the doorway into the liberated state, Mukta Sthiti. Mukta Sthiti. Sthiti means state of realization. Mukta means liberated being. A Mukta is a Jivatma that has gone into Bhakti. Bhakti has culminated into Jivan Mukti. And so our goal here, by the grace of all the Gurus, is to examine that border point transition from the Bhakta state, who is still in the sadhana state. Eventually, the sadhana state doesn't remain sadhana anymore. It enters into Siddha state, Siddha Bhakti. So that is our focus is going to be there, but we'll talk about some other interconnected points also. So remember that the Navdha Bhakti always continues. I mean, there's not a point in the life of a truly liberated being that the 9 forms of devotion do not continue. They always continue, just like they did before even the Mukta state. It's not like, someone has become a Mukta and says, Abhi kya Bhagwan ki bhakti karni, forget about this and forget about that. And you don't need to do arati, you don't need to do puja, don't need to do anything. Bhagwan is everywhere. Nahi, not that. That should not be done. That's a misunderstanding. Some people have done that also, falsely thinking they're a Mukta. क्या मंदिर में जाना, सोहम मैं ही सब कुछ हूँ, नहीं, that will lead to ahankar. Even when Mukta state is Mukta state is achieved, there is no degradation in dasatva bhav, in das bhav. Even when there is the one without a second, there is the vision of Parabrahman everywhere, there is no sense of any ahankar that I am Brahman. This statement is there in Vachanamrut. Shriji Maharaj, Maharaj स्वयं कहते कि हूँ ब्रह्म छू एनो मारे भार नथी. In Gujarati he says this, that it's a realization I am Brahman. We will also need to realize this, right? But there's no weight of that there's no sense of I in terms of any ego current even slightly present in that. If that ego current opens up for any reason, or it somehow props up, then one will fall straight out of Brahmic consciousness. Straight from the mountaintop, straight on the ground, straight down. It's like that. Itna aisa hai. So the awareness of the function of the individualized ego that is always trying to assert itself, even in the spiritual path, even with knowledge and wisdom and bhakti, it's trying to assert itself in everything we do. Whether we know it or not, it is doing so. And hence, when we recognize it, the actual link into that state, Hey Prabhu, aap hi sab kuch ho. You are everything. That transmutation is that border point between Navdha Bhakti, where Atma Nivedanam is the culmination of the 9 forms, and then transition into mukta state. Now, it's not like, somebody's going to come to us and give us a certificate. Well, Sachin, now you have graduated into the mukta state and here's a big certificate for you or some stamp on the forehead. Aisa nahi hai. That doesn't happen that way. How do we know we are in the mukta state? How is that realized? There is 100% freedom from every type of entanglement while we are awake, while we're dreaming. At the dream state is also fundamentally changed. And the deep sleep is no longer just deep sleep. In the deep sleep, there are glimpses of the Atman and Brahman. The normal deep sleep is just like there's no experience. Shushupti avastha. But in that Shushupti avastha, extraordinary spiritual experiences, again the word experience is not the right word, अनुभूति होती है, इसमें से दिव्य तत्व open होते हैं. It's a very big thing. इसको जीवन मुक्त की स्थिति कहते हैं. And this is possible. Yes, the first major indication that we are even coming close to that is that all of our usual dreams stop. The stuff that comes up from our mental consciousness, past recordings inside the buddhi, inside the memory structure, worries, tensions, fears, thinking about people of this world, all that stops. What does show up are divine dreams. That is a first indication that one is coming anywhere close to that border point. That ye jo sapna avastha, it radically changes. Radically changes. All of the lower chakras and their mixtures of energies, it all stops. It completely stops. The dreams of family members. See, I'll just use myself as an example. The father of this body. I don't want to say my father. I want to say father of the body. That's more accurate. There's no father, mother. It's a bakwas baat hai. Atma ka koi father nahi hai, mother nahi hai, kuch nahi hai. Atma is ansh of Sri Krishna Paramatma. Chapter 15 of the Gita. So I want to use accurate language here in our platform here. The father of this body, not the father of the Atman. There's father of the Atman is Bhagavan. So to be accurate. So there's memories from childhood. So that individual, the body passed away. All of those memories, thoughts, feelings is stored in the brain. But as Navda Bhakti increases, the vision of those memories changes. Isko Gyan kehte hai. That yes, that is an Atma Tattva that has moved on with love and respect and all that thing. But is there any attachment? No, zero. Not even 0.00001% attachment to that person as a body. None. Then only the mukta state can be reached. If Sachin is even slightly entangled with anybody, any body, B-O-D-Y, and the stories behind it, we have that. We can functionally have that. But if there is entanglement, bandhan, mukta sthiti nahi aayegi. No way. Impossible. Kitna difficult hai. Vichar to kijiye. That's why I never wanted to talk about this before. But chalo karenge Bhagwan ki ichha. Put it out there. Satya baat bahar aani hi chahiye. Not because of Sachin. Jo satya hai, wo satya hi hai. See, again, this is a sadhana, right? But Sachin speaks to his mother every other day, every day in WhatsApp or whatever for. First vritti as a sadhana. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Matru Rupena Samsita. See the goddess. Not just, this is my mother and this and that, and somebody said this and somebody said that, and this much is going on here and there. Ye jo sab chal raha. Functionally, yes. The interaction, Vyavarika Satyam, we have to interact in that way. But now that interaction is without bondage. See how tricky this is. How this is possible. Most people have never even thought about these things. Forget about trying to even reach such a stage, right? So, but to get the concept clear that place Bhagwan inside one's eyes, inside one's mouth. Mouth meaning on the tongue, Bhagvat Nam. In the ears. This is all Navda Bhakti. And when we are infused again and again and again, and Bhakti has really taken shape inside, my God, ये एक इसका वर्णन नहीं हो सकता. It is very difficult to describe. It is extraordinary. There is no anubhav in life like this. None. Yes, there are experiences in the three gunas of Maya. You can have bigger homes and better trips and better clothing, and and all kinds of material level experiences can be expanded. Better restaurants and Vishay Bhog, Rajsik Bhav. Lots of money and lots of pleasures of different kinds. Yes. That much everybody knows about. इसमें कोई नई बात नहीं है. But the mumukshu, tivra mumukshutvam, sees the boundary of all of that. How difficult that is. How difficult it is. If we get a 5% pay raise, we're flying on like, my God, I got a 5% pay raise. Something great has happened. What about this raise in bhakti? 5% raise in bhakti, that would be interesting, right? But the problem is, who's going to... It's not some tangible physical object, that you're going to get $1,000 more in your bank account or something like that, or some better quality. I just got something in the mail recently. Like 15 new restaurants opened up in this area. So what do we think? Oh my God, look at, they have coupons and all that. Hamari vritti isme ye sab. And it's not a criticism. It's not a criticism. Ye ek Shakti hai. It's also Bhagwan ki Shakti hai wo. It's not a criticism. It is to recognize that it is there. But there is a very clear limitation in that. Can we recognize this? Then bhakti will really take hold within us. It will solidify. It will build inside. Once the true limitations are seen in their entirety. And that is Jnana and Vairagya. The bird, two wings of a bird. Jnana and Vairagya is an inner growth to see the experiences of the material world without rejecting them. It's not, but keeping certain boundary, that is dharma. Deciding how much to interact, how much not to interact, what to do, what not to. That is all called dharma. And that's all. And with that, then that opening of love for Paramatma. See, when we say, wait a minute, what about loving everybody? Of course. If Sachin says there is love for all, that is bhakti. There is love for all. But as soon as, we mentioned it many times before, I put a boundary around it. I love my family, but this is another family. I don't love that family. I don't love this person, that person, this person, my group, another group. As soon as we put a boundary, political boundary, racial boundary, religious boundary, no, cannot become mukta. Mukta sthiti mein ja hi nahi sakte. How is possible? As soon as a boundary shows up, and with the ego that shows up in any context, including religious organizations, finished. Your doorway is closed into mukti. Mukti milegi bhi nahi. You'll be reborn again back into satsang again and again until that thing is obliterated. It has to be obliterated. It's very hard. It's very easy to get attached to a particular guru parampara and then get into that boundary modality. That is a doorway. It is not to be bound in terms of an egotistical divisiveness, which is what the world is functioning on. One organization, another, all the worldly, the organization, business organizations, they're always competing with each other. So are these religious organizations also to compete with each other? The moment you have competition in religious organization, it's a total failure. F minus, grade is F minus, minus, minus. Total failure. As soon as there is competition, bhav, finish. Doesn't matter how much anybody knows or what size. Iska koi arth hi nahi hai. It means nothing at all. Because there is a sense of me versus you. I'm better than you. Finish. As soon as that comes, it's gone. As soon as that comes, the whole, you may have done 100 years of tapasya, it obliterates right away. Thousands of malas and bhajans could be done. The moment Sachin feels, I am something better than somebody else, I'm finished. Why? Yeah, uska punya milta hai. You cannot reach mukta sthiti. No way. It's not something that can be purchased. People think we can purchase spirituality, sometimes. No, it's not a business transaction. It is a realization of extraordinary love. And that love is such where Atmanivedanam has reached its climax, the ninth bhakti. Shravanam kirtanam Vishnu, smaranam padasevanam, archanam vandanam dasyam, sakhyam Atmanivedanam. Atmanivedanam is the ninth bhakti, and it is where one's soul is given to the Lord, is given to Bhagavan. Bhagvat Samarpan. Atmanivedanam. Extraordinary. Now, let's talk about this. When a bhakta is approaching Atmanivedanam, let's look at what are the symptoms. What is it that happens? The entire waking time, there is a clear viveka of not wasting even a microsecond on anything that doesn't belong in one's life. What is needed for survival, all that, one's duties are performed, but one does not dive into the binding features of the sansar. And that's different for everyone. Because the vairagya is at such a level, all of these other things that we normally are just lost in, they seem utterly meaningless. So it's a waste of time. It feels that way, that this is a waste. How can I put my vritti in this utter polluted polluted water? Turn on the news, turn on Netflix, turn on Hulu. 99% is polluted water. Well, I'm just saying that. Maybe it's 80%. You will know. It's not about criticizing. What is polluted and what is to be taken. That viveka shows up right away. And then how do we know that, by the way? By the disturbance in bhakti. Sachin starts watching something, I'm giving that as an example, or maybe talking to somebody or some experiences of life, and I get lost. These wars going on and all this stuff going on right now, right? People are being killed and terrible story. I mean, it's like worse every day. It's so easy to be bitter, hateful, negative, to contaminate yourself. I said, no. You pray for all, do what you can do, but do not bring that inside. That now we just have one more person suffering. That's just by my creating my own suffering by all that doesn't solve that suffering. What can I do? I can learn about it, understand it, and prarthana karo. A prarthana is most important. And not only that, if there is something to be done practically to help a couple of people here and there, whatever is in our purview, do that much. But the sansar is going to continue. These wars and problems, this has been going on for thousands of years. There's nothing new in that. And it's going to go on. Because most of the people coming into the world, the Jivatma, are coming with their causal bodies. They're not coming with enlightenment. So what do you expect? You don't expect the prisoners. That's what they are. They are all prisoners. Most of the Jivatma are prisoners inside the material world. They're lost inside there. Davanar, Sansara Dava, Nidaloka. There's so many sages have written. It's not a criticism of anybody in that sense, but it's a realization of how the binding power works. And it's endless. Bahushakha Hanantascha. It is an endless binding. And we recognize this. When one recognizes this, one comes into the Jnana Mudra. This is called Jnana Mudra. One becomes a Jnani. See this thing exactly what it is. And then one is rising above it. Jag mein raho to aise raho jaise jal mein kamal ka phool rahe. That jal kamal, that lotus flower. That is, you recognize that this is how this worldly experience just continues this way. राग द्वेष अहम ममत्व, ये सब ऐसा ही चलता है. Which by recognizing this and then recognizing where am I getting bound, having a much broader vision, that Jnanam opens up as the connection towards Paramatma increases, and we can see very, very clearly what is binding me, what is not binding me. The nature of the sansar is seen in as it is. That is how Shankaracharya ji would see the sansar. It is not about running away from the life. It is nothing like that. It is a change, not just a change, it is a radical transformation of vision, because we are now then able to see this world exactly the way it is. And in that vision, there is natural vairagya. Vairagya is where there is extraordinary stability inside. And there's so much understanding that comes, jnana comes. Each jivatma is on its own track, running madly in the forest, the jungle. It is going to be lost and trapped inside. Don't expect anybody to come out of this thing. It's not going to happen. Very, very unlikely. Very unlikely anybody ever comes out of it. You see? So don't expect that. Expect it from yourself. That's it. Nobody else. And when we do that, then that personal bond with Bhagavan happens. Bhagavan, dekhte, you want to come out of Maya? You want to come to me? Fine. Serve all. Wish well for all. Recognize where everything exists relatively. That is also part of Jnana. But one must not force anybody, because this is too advanced. ये बहुत आगे की बात है. These are not, each and every idea is very much for, as the evolution happens inside, there is great Jnana Shakti. The Bhakti is also a great Shakti. Keep it as it is. It's, the analogy that I would give you, again, since we're talking about that border point, there are people that are quite wealthy in this world. They might have $100 million or whatever, but they interact with the ordinary people in the ordinary way. Just because somebody has $100 million, he's not going to be ordering 30 cups of tea every time he goes to a restaurant to show off, look at how great I am. Has to interact with the ordinary people in the ordinary way. That is the secret of maintaining liberation while interacting with all individuals who are in their ordinary life. That's not an easy thing to understand or even to explain. That is how a very evolved being can interact with everybody without ever having any divisiveness, but without ever losing that mukta state. No, that is never lost. Somebody has $100 billion in their bank account and they're wearing shorts and t-shirts and going to a McDonald's and orders French fries and apple pie. Think about that. Visualize this. How can you know who that person is? He's ordinary. He has a cup of tea, this and that. This is an analogy of how the muktas live in this world. They don't create conflict with anybody. They don't think that they're superior to anybody. They don't try to show off their devotion to anybody. See how interesting. Not only that, they see their Lord in everybody. Even though the Jivatma is bound, it's not like, well, you're bound and I'm liberated. No, not that also. There is liberation, but iska koi ahankar nahi hai. It's difficult to explain. I mean, in short, it has to be really, really clear. Because it is a de-identification with the ahankar narratives. See this sentence. De-identification with ahankar narratives. We are always having a narrative. Sachin ki resume, 9-page ki resume. Actually, Sachin has a 9 or 10. I think it's grown now because of all angel wings. Theek, resume, right? This is my resume, it's my narrative. This is my education. This is my knowledge. This is my this, my that. I am this. I am this. It's the ahankar narrative. Functionally remains as needed, but that mukta state is not spoken of. They're trying to show that off. Can you imagine a person who is super wealthy goes into the McDonald's and orders 1,000 items, and then makes a little, and has a T-shirt. I have $100 billion, everything on me for the next 1 week. Anybody who comes free, and people are going crazy. Newspapers are called, and that person will be looking for his safety. Is showing off. If you want to give, Gupta दान, that's what हमारे संस्कृति में कहते हैं, दान भी देना, गुप्त देना. Don't put your name in plaque and announce and all that. Wait, नहीं करना. Don't do that. Help somebody. Don't have to reveal to 1,000 people that we did all this thing. Even इसका भी अहंकार आ सकता है. The point is, when there is true bhakti that opens up from inside, all of the chakras get aligned. People talk about chakra alignment. Don't worry about chakra alignment. ये माया का चक्कर में से निकल जाओ, सब चक्र align ही है. It's very simple. राग द्वेष अहम ममत्व क्लेश ये सब छोड़ देना. Let that drop once and for all. Once and for all, cut it out. Once, it's like a cancer. That you go to the cancer specialist and say, this thing has become malignant, whatever it is. This thing, we've done so many things to it. Now it's time to take that thing and cut it out and throw it out. That vritti has to come. Then one becomes a mukta. As long as those knots are there, we are holding on to those things. Mukta sthiti nahi aati. We suffer problems that we keep revolving up and down in the sadhana ladder. That cutting out is the de-identification from the ahankar narrative, and the sakshi, the atma tattva, becomes the baseline. So aham brahmasmi tattvamasi. Who am I? Not this I, the ego. I, the consciousness. I, that saintliness. I, that undivided satyam. That is the baseline. Reactivity vanishes as 9 forms of devotion: bhajan, kirtan, smaran, manan, chintan, scriptural reading. The connection, heightened connection with the supreme reality, heightened connection with Sri Krishna, with Shri Radhika ji, heightened connection. And in that heightened connection, reactivity loses its grip. We are no longer reactive at all. It attenuates and then eventually it dissipates. Now, dissolving into the mukta state or dissolving the ahankar, it does not mean one loses moral responsibility. Somebody says, okay, I'm completely liberated being, this and that. So who cares? Do anything you want, There's no ethics, no moral. No. Moral responsibility is always there. It does not mean one just stops talking to anybody. So everything is one. Who to talk to? Aisa nahi hai. At the relative level, we talk to others, just like we are doing now. But the difference is there is no ahankar narrative that is contaminating the conversation with others. And it does not mean we are withdrawing from the society. It does not mean that. We are with the society. We're living with the society. There's no withdrawal. Where are you going to go anyway? There's no running away from one's life. There's no social withdrawal. But the markers are such that, when Atmanivedanam reaches a point, Atmanivedanam bhakti is such that now bhakti has become effortless. There are 4 points I want to mention here on this. I wish we had another hour here to just getting started with this actually. effortlessness is the first marker that when one is at the threshold of Atmanivedanam, the ninth bhakti. It is a threshold that the effort is not present anymore. Practice feels in a way that it is done through rather than done by. I hope you can see the difference. The practices, the spiritual practices, sadhana, it is done through the body-mind complex rather than done by Sachin. Right now Sachin is speaking, hearing also. You are hearing. The hearing is done through the body-mind. Speaking is done through, those ideas are coming through the body-mind. And remembering Bhagavan, then that is effortlessness. Effortlessness is the first marker when one is at the threshold, the border point of Atmanivedanam, not the Mukta state yet, but this is the Atmanivedanam, the ninth bhakti. And then we get to the Mukta state. Second point, second marker, there is unbroken orientation. Smaran, remembrance of the divine truths, ideas, concepts. It is smarana persists across activities in the daytime and then eventually at night time. Yeah, we do our activities, but that internal link, smarana means remembering again and again the concepts and ideas of teachings of Vedanta, Gita, bhajans, because there is rasa, there is such a mystery and extraordinary beauty in that. Rather than simply just thinking about the worldly, what is happening in this news and this thing and this problem. This is all people talk about. You get to, and if you have to talk about, it's fine. Even that is divine in the highest, from the Mukta point of view. Because then that is not the Brahma, as we were saying. But from level 2 levels below, that border of smarana, one is absorbed inside the contemplative link with spirituality. Yes, that is still sadhana stage, but that is a marker that one is at the threshold. Threshold means the border of Atmanivedanam, that Atmanivedanam is about to happen. There are four markers. Unbroken orientation is the second one, where smarana continues across all activities. The third orientation is frictionless ethics. That every action is nishkam karma. Ethics is not damaged. No action is taken that is unethical. That is me versus you, me to benefit from, all that kind of stuff. Benefit from somebody else's pain. No. Frictionless, internal friction is not there. Frictionless ethics is the third marker of that threshold point. And fourth marker is the affect climate, meaning soft joy, ananda. Ananda just bubbles inside without needing so many objects from the outside. That is a natural joy that is called soft joy. That is called soft joy without objects. Sorrow passes through without residue. Even if sorrow, some difficulty, this and that comes, it passes through and it doesn't create a memory imprint that binds the individual. That is called sorrow passing through without residue. You know what is residue, right? Amazing. These are 4 markers of the threshold of Atmanivedanam Bhakti. And then, as this continues, it is the ahankar surrenders. It surrenders completely, quietly at the feet of Bhagavan. Bahut adbhut baat hai. It's a tremendous state, Seva is Everything is seva. Every breath is seva. Every thought is seva. Every emotion is seva. It reaches that stage. Helping others is done without wanting some praise and all that. Those are all foolish things. That's gone long time back. Putting a plaque on there with somebody's name, donated so much. It's a bakwas baat hai. That thing has to be thrown out. That if that desire is there, there's no chance of mukti. Forget about it. It's not going to happen. So it's all those things are out. They have to be out completely. Then there is a spiritual audit. What is a spiritual audit? Seeing where one is in this development. It is an unbiased vision of where is what is happening in this life, in the mind. It is an audit. It's called a spiritual audit. This is described in Vachanamrut mein bhi likha hai, Garada Pratham 38. It's called in Gujarati Manikna Namanu Vachanamrut. But that's what this means. It's a spiritual audit. You should see how much progression, what is happening in my life while I'm awake. Where's my mind going? How much bhakti is going on? I have to see all this. We have to see all this. I'm using the eye as a functional eye right now. And ideally, if it is done with a mentor or like a physical guru and all that, that's fine. Or it can be done even with the murti of Bhagavan. I mean, that's fine. It can be done in many different ways. But it's called a spiritual audit. That this is where I am, this is my deficiency, people do this in many ways, right? There's a lot of ways to go about it. Very interesting. And the contemplation is such that bhava and rasa, the enjoyment and the bhav inside, it is beginning to really, really open beautifully. That nearly most of the time, in the waking time, there is that constant joy, that soft joy. There is balance that doesn't shift. Balance is not damaged. Balance is not like few hours of balance and then shifting. No, there is a constant balance. And when all of this is present, the Atma Nivedanam, that there is a total link with Paramatma, then bhajan, mantras, all of these, the divine stimuli, it really, we get absorbed inside that stimuli. And that stimuli becomes us, that becomes our essential nature. It's really quite an extraordinary thing, actually, an extraordinary state. It's no longer getting pulled back and forth into the sansar. Sansar mein to rehta hi hai, but we're not, the bhakta is not pulled inside the vortex of the sansar. The sansar remains. Interaction is there. Living in it is there. But not being pulled by it. That evolution is held inside the mind, that I don't want to be pulled. There's not to be dragged into the vortex of the sansar. But at the same time, see what is my duty and then continue on that path. This is how we eventually, the bhakta eventually reaches para bhakti or ananya bhakti or prema bhakti or prema lakshana bhakti. That prema lakshana bhakti, as soon as that opens, even a crack of it opens, one gets a glimpse of the mukta, liberated state. वो दिव्य बात है. It is not describable. We shall try, but it's not really describable. In terms of no description can ever come, cannot, iska like sthiti hai. It is a realization. And it is the most extraordinary realization. There is nothing like that. It is where devotion no longer orients towards just in terms of murti. Murti to hai hi Bhagwan ki. But love abides as the felt fabric of awareness. You understand this point? That the fabric of awareness, Chit, C-I-T, Sat, Chit, Ananda. Awareness meaning our experience of life, everything that is coming. It is the love, that prema. This is, now we're talking about that opening into the 10th when Atmanivedanam has happened. That love abides. Prema, it's just constant. Prem ki murti. ऐसे जो भक्त है, these kinds of devotees at this stage, they are the manifestation of love. This is Krupa of Radhika ji, Haladini Shakti. They become a living manifestation of love. Love abides as the felt fabric of awareness. And when fabric of awareness means anywhere. Ja juwe tya Ram ji biju na bhase re, anubhavi anand ma brahma rasana bhogi re, Jivan Mukta jogiya antar arogi re, anubhavi anand ma govinda gave re. Muktanand Swami ka pad. I want to take this actually. It's very, very beautiful. There are 4 poems, very famous in the Swaminarayan Sampradaya. Muktanand Swami has written this. Kitne adbhut sant ho gaye, fantastic saints. And those 4 poems encapsulate everything we're talking about. Jivan Mukta jogiya antar arogi re. I know we're almost at 9 o'clock now, so we'll stop here. You don't feel like stopping at all. We want to keep going and going. Let's stop here for now. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarva Karishu Sarada Om Ganganapate Namaha Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Deva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandatitam Gagana Sadrusham Tattvamasyadi Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalvachanam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami Dhyanammulam Gurur Murti Mantramulam Gurur Vakyam Pujamulam Gurur Padam Mokshamulam Gurur Krupa Tameva Mata Shipita Tameva Bandusha Sakha Tameva Vidyadravim Tameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Om Trambakam Yajame Sugandim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshya Mamritata Om Namo Hanumate Bhayabanjanaya Sukham Kuru That Swaha Durga Rakshini Tha Swaha Om Aim Brim Klim Chamundaye Viche Swaha Shri Radha Krishnar Pranamastu Om Hrim Swaha.